So we have an ongoing issue here in Greenbelt. We've got the NCOZ being talked about, and people really want to maintain the historic flavor and texture of the town.
Right, and just look back to the Greenbelt News Review archives, and if you were to do the top 5 topics of the last 80 years, whatever, one of them has to be zoning. Whenever there's zoning, whenever people feel that our unique neighborhood, that its unique character, its walkability, its density, et cetera, are being threatened, then there's concern. And so there is all of Prince George's County has a new zoning thing that will be put into place this year. It was voted on. But it's being rolled out. The final vote is due at the end of this year. And along with that is something called the NCOZ, the
Neighborhood Conservation Overlay Zone.
Right.
I finally learned that. And
Yes.
Chad has been just heroic in just taking comments and acting on them.
Yeah, Chad Williams, who deals with zoning, the Prince George's, who deals with this topic. And at the end of the article, also an article 2 weeks ago in the paper, there's several ways. An email, if you have questions, a website, if you have questions, if you don't remember anything else, the office is open for questions. Plus, the article outlines there will be times during the process this year, because it's not just going to be voted on at the end of the year. There's a process where there will be time for public comments. There'll be several hearings.
That's right, in March and June.
That's exactly right. Yes.
I guess there will be a vote at some point, and they're hoping that this will take effect late fall of 2020.
Yes. And now here's the bottom line, is that right now, the type of zoning that's here only protects the character of this neighborhood to a certain degree. There's some protection. There's, as you mentioned, so detailed site plans. There's something we're going to talk about in a minute that talks about a detailed site plan. And that's a part of the process. But under the NCOZ, under this overlay zone, Chad Williams says that there'll be more flexibility and more opportunity to protect the character of the neighborhood, to protect the zoning. And I will be frank, I covered that meeting, I wrote the article, and I barely understand it myself. I find zoning, unless you are a student of it, extremely technical. So I'm gonna say read the article, go to the website, but the bottom line is that Chad Williams says this gives us more flexibility.
He is open. And what I appreciate, and all of us should appreciate, is that you have got at least 2 websites mentioned in there so that you can get electronic documents. It's a real alphabet soup. Too much to just say on TV. But if people want to go and do some more of their own research, go to the article. And at the end of the article are the websites to go to learn about this. And I think Chad even put his phone number in there.
I think, or at least a phone number where he can be reached. Yes, it is brave. He was very forthcoming, very helpful. So.
So Maglev, opponents of Maglev project were glad to hear that the Federal Railroad Administration has hit the pause button on the assessment of the project.
Yeah, a little bit of a reprieve. It's not stop. It's not a stop button. It is just a pause. But an environmental impact study was due in October, and it wasn't finished. And so that's pausing the railroad authorities, Federal Railroad
Administration, right?
It's paused the process. The Maglev people have to catch up, have to complete their environmental impact study, the EIS.
Something that I was a little surprised at, it seems like this federal agency wants to look at the impact on the entire idea, of the entire route, which it sounds like a pretty huge undertaking there.
It does, and I think it should be that's welcome news. It's a big undertaking, but if they're serious about it, there have been consistent, as we know, if you're even a casual reader of the paper, lots of concerns that we've covered very, very heavily about you know, the effect of tunneling, the effect of vibrations. What do you do with the debris? What do you do, you know, jobs, the money spent,
Sure.
many, many issues. And so to have such a thoroughgoing environmental impact study is great. It's good. We can only welcome that, and more time is good.
And I just want to repeat again that for website info, check the paper. In the last paragraph, there are ways for you to find out more information on here, and we appreciate that. Thank you. We have more discussion, and this time a vote was taken. The proposed rental project on Cherrywood, and it's got a name, Motiva.
A couple weeks ago, we did an article on this, and that was a work session talking about some of the issues. This article is about a regular session, a regular council meeting, where even though the council and the city of Greenbelt has no authority, no real impact, they took a vote to accept the plan as laid out, but with some pretty interesting conditions.
And I was surprised at how much give there was on the part of the developers there, because some of those conditions were geothermal, right? Solar powered, something or other.
A recreation trail, a trail for walking, running, whatever. Shade over children's play area. And my favorite, of course, is a venue for the distribution of the Greenbelt News Review. Now, honestly,
that should have been number one.
The council should say, listen, you're not going to provide for our paper. Forget it. We're not going to, we're going to try to stop you at every turn. Anyway, so we'll see what happens. And it should be, I think, in a developer's interest to try as much as possible to work with the community, to not be purely, on the cheap, bottom line, we don't care, but to try to, work with communities to, meet their needs, to meet their concerns, and to be more, human-centered.
There was, who was it? I guess Rodney. His objection was no schools for the kids, right?
He beats that drum, but that's a good drum to beat. It's something he mentions at every opportunity when zoning or new construction, new development is being proposed. And it's an important question. Already, schools are overcrowded. So, what is it? So.
And going back to what you said earlier, Jay Davis was being just really practical. She said, at least they're listening to us now, because if we walk away from this, then they can do whatever they want. At least they're listening, and there's some, we've had some input in a situation where we really have none.
That's
power,
right. Yes, we are grateful to be invited to that table, to be in that room, at least for certain periods of time, just to discuss. So yeah, we are being given input. We meaning the city of Greenbelt, and that's good.
Right. So the final vote, 4-2, Rodney Roberts and Colin Bird opposing, right?
Yeah. And that's typical of votes like that. You will see those two typically are hesitant to lend their support to more housing. I've heard people say that what more can you develop in Greenbelt? That there's, in some sense, some old-timers who've been around for a long time have said there's really nothing more. That really development should be more about renovating, rehabbing, like what we've done with the theater and other things. That new business and new. So yes, at least there's something.
And so one last detail too. I just learned that was zoned commercial, but is now going to be zoned residential, and I guess that's like a little bit of a change there too. Which
I suppose I'm not sure the implication of that. I can't comment on what that means.
So finally, Todd Turner reelected as County Council Chair.
Yeah, and that's basically the news story, period, except that the person who represents the district that includes Greenbelt is the chair of the County Council, which I suppose gives him a little more input into what is considered, the order that things are considered. Yes, and he's responsive, so the zoning meeting that we just talked about a couple minutes ago, he wasn't there, but his chief of staff was there, which I think is pretty significant, that his office is interested enough to, to have a pretty high level person just be present at the meeting, to show interest, to say, okay, we're listening to to our constituents.
And I've been happy he shows up at many local events.
We see him a lot.
active,
We see him a lot, and so the fact that he is again going to be the council chair, I think it's a great thing. Good for you, Mr. Turner, and go for it.
All right. Thanks for bringing us up to speed on things happening in Greenbelt this week.
Thank you, Andy.